what's up? I'm Josh Fosgreen, and in this video I'm going to show you my 10 favorite apps for musicians to streamline your practice and help you get better faster. We're going to cover some mobile apps, some desktop apps. It's going to be a little bit biased towards Apple products because that's just what I happen to use, but there will be some other options as well. First up is DrumBeats Plus, which is a pretty simple drum machine app that I like on mobile. You've got some basic stuff you would expect, just some stock drum beats you can play with. Some nice boom crack, headbang beat. If you're just like on the bus and you need to headbang and this is all you have, that would work. So the reason I like this besides, well, there's a few reasons I like it. It's $5, which is not a lot of bucks. It's pretty easy to use. It'd be hard to have trouble using this. And the really cool thing about it is if you go to basic training, you can get some simple like feel help stuff. This is kind of geared towards drummers, but I like it for bass players too. In the timing bar breaks folder is my favorite thing, which is you can get like 3 bars on and 1 bar off for doing timing practice. So we'll hear 3 bars of the beat. That's 2 bars. Here's the 3rd bar. Then you have to keep time for the 4th bar and then come back in and see how you did. So you can do that kind of exercise with this app. And yes, this is all stuff you could do in a digital audio workstation, and we'll talk about those later. But I actually like having simple single function apps like this, even though I use DAWs also, just because this way you don't have to fuss with menus and instruments and stuff. You just open it up, start a drum beat, and you're happening. Okay, next up is my favorite metronome app. This one's called Metronomics, and what I really like about this one is I can give myself really spaced apart beats to keep time with. So the exercise I like to do on here, I only get 1 beat every 4 bars. I got this idea from Victor Wooten, and it's a way to train up your internal metronome. So that would look something like this. Let's see if I can do it on camera. Nailed it. So that's one thing you can do on here. You can do a ton of stuff with customizing subdivisions. You can see all the options here. I won't even mess with that. And then up here, I can change the tempo, the time signature, obviously. I can change how often I get a downbeat crash. You can make it inaudible for certain bars. So you could do kind of what we did in the DrumBeats Plus app where you get 3 bars on, 4 bars off, something like that. You can change the tempo, so here in the tempo alteration, I could set it to go up 2 BPM every bar or every 4 bars, whatever. I can set the count off. I have a 2-bar count off there you heard earlier. And you can also set a timer. So another way I use this app is for doing some speed practice with my right hand. I set the timer to like 3 minutes, and I would just try to keep up with my speed exercise, and then it would stop when I was done automatically. So that was all cool stuff that I've really enjoyed about this app. And also there's a lot of sounds you can customize with, so you could actually build some drum machine sounding click tracks in this app, so it feels a little bit more like than just beep, boop, bah, bah. But anyway, Metronomics, one of my favorites. Next up is the iReal Pro app, which I use on my iPad. There's also a desktop version. This app is awesome for a lot of things. There are some things about it that aren't amazing, but I'll get to that. So the main thing I use this for is for practicing jazz standards, because that's been a priority for me in my practice the last year or two, is just increasing my jazz standard repertoire and feeling more comfortable on more tunes. So what I love about this is there's tons of charts already in there, and you can put in your own charts, and the auto accompaniment system is really good. If you've ever tried playing jazz without other actual live musicians, you know how frustrating it is, because you're not actually playing jazz if you're not playing with other people. You're just imitating jazz for practice purposes. But this thing does a good enough job that you can practice soloing over changes, practice walking over changes, whatever, and do it as much as you need to so that you're ready when you actually have the real people to play with. So some examples of what I could do with this. Here's what the play along sounds like. I could just practice playing the melody. I could could solo a little bit, or I can take the bass out of the mix, bring the piano and drums up. So you can hear the accompaniment is like pretty good. It's not actually jazz, but it sounds jazzy. This is an area where the Jamie Aebersold recordings that used actual musicians on the CDs were a lot better. The problem with the Aebersolds is it's a lot more expensive to get all of those, and it's only available for certain songs. So the advantage of iReal Pro is it's just little robots in there making jazzy noises. So you don't have the limitation of options that you'd have with Aebersolds or another play-along series where you actually have everything recorded. Next up is the humble Voice Memos app, or whatever voice recorder you have on your device or anything else. Having just an easy recorder where you can just whip it out, hit record, and be recording is really useful in a lot of situations. You can get a more expensive like Zoom recorder or something if you need good quality, but for me, I've found this really useful for just recording little progress snapshots of my practice. Like I will venture to play you this snippet of a Dexter Gordon solo I was working on from Just Friends. I think I missed one note. Let's see, what else do I have in here? I was working on For Once in My Life, so here's me playing one verse so I could just listen back, see how I sounded. Such a good tune. Voice memos, record yourself practicing. It doesn't matter what you're practicing, just record yourself for like 1 minute and then listen back and see if you can put yourself in the audience's shoes, the audience of your playing, and what could you maybe do better. You can kind of take the role of being your own teacher if you don't have one, or even if you do and you just want to keep your progress moving forward more. So record yourself. Okay, the Tenuto app. This is from musictheory.net, and you can do this for free on their website, musictheory.net, on desktop, or you could probably do it on mobile too, just in your browser. But the app is like $5 and it works really well. It's very slick and efficient, and I really like doing it in the app. So the main reason I bought this app and that I'm recommending it to you right now is for interval year training. Because if you're not doing interval year training, then you're missing out on doing interval year training. And I have a whole video about interval year training. I'll link you to it somewhere. I'll put a link in the description. Do interval year training. So I have it set up really, really easy here. I was demoing this for a student. So you get the sound, and then I've talked about this more in the ear training video, but you pick a song reference to reference that to, and you're like, da-na, and it sounds like an octave, so I do that, and then I get the next question. So Tenuto is a nice way to build an ear training habit because you can just have it with you, which is, I think, the main advantage over using the website. If you have a commute to work on a train or something, or just a 5-minute period where you're with your phone, just doing a little bit of ear training every day is so much better than doing one long session. So it's nice to have it with you in the thing that you keep in your pocket compulsively all the time. The other reason I like the app over the website is because having a habit of practicing ear training is really useful because it's something you want to do often in small amounts rather than I'll do ear training on Sunday every week. You want to do it 5 minutes a day is much better than doing an hour once a week or something like that. So having it in an app form is just really useful for habit forming. There's a bunch of other stuff you can do in the Tenuto app. I haven't even used most of it. You can do note, key signature, interval, scale, and chord identification. You can work on your music reading, keyboard and fretboard mapping stuff. I don't think the fretboard note identification stuff is useful unless you're without your instrument. If you can do it here, then do it here. It's better than doing it on an abstract representation of your fretboard. But the ear training stuff is what's really gold. The interval, the scale, and the chord ear training is what I recommend you spend your time with on that. Also in the ear training department is the Toned Ear app, not Tone Deer, it's Toned Ear. But it's hard to tell in the URL because there's a website too, tonedear.com. And I actually recommend the website over the mobile app for this one because it's a little clunky. So why do I recommend two ear training apps? Tenuto is really good for the basics, but there's some stuff that it doesn't do, that Toned Ear does do, that I really love. This scale degrees functional and intervals in context functional. and the melodic dictation are all really good extensions from doing interval ear training. So part of the reason I don't recommend this app so much is it takes a long time to load the exercise compared to Tenuto. Like, it's still, come on, I'm trying to film a video. And then I get audio issues when I don't plug in headphones, so I'm like trying to play it for you right now and I'm not hearing anything. So I don't necessarily recommend the app. If you can do it on the website, then do it on the website, because the app feels a little buggy. So if you're watching this, Tone Deer Dude, fix the app up a little, because your infrastructure of exercises is really awesome. Okay, next up is pretty much any tuner app. I don't really think it matters which tuner app you use. I use one called Piano Tuner, and I don't know why it's called Piano Tuner. Like, shouldn't it be called Piano Tuner? Because it kind of looks like a piano-y situation going on. But the reason I like this one is, you can see it actually shows me in hertz the note I'm playing, as well as tuning it to A440. And I find this one works pretty well. It's not too jumpy aroundy, although it sure is jumping around while I'm talking. It's fun to see what frequency you're singing to. So I like that one, and it's free. And but it really doesn't matter what tuner app you use. But I should have stressed this point more earlier in the discussion of the tuner app. Tuner apps are for backup only, please. It's just not pro to rely on a tuner app, I don't think. Like, you got to whip out your phone to tune your instrument. It's just kind of sketchy. So use a good tuner, something you plug into, or if you're going to use a clip-on, use something good like a TC Polytune or Unitune clip. Don't use a cheapo like a Snark or whatever. Another realm of app that you should really familiarize yourself with is digital audio workstations, or DAWs for short. On the free end of things, you've got Audacity, which works on Windows or Mac, or GarageBand, which works on Mac, and that's free. And then on the pro side, you have Ableton Live, Pro Tools, Logic, that kind of stuff, which has a steeper learning curve and also a bigger price tag, but obviously higher quality, more functionality and stuff. But having facility in some kind of DAW is really useful at a variety of levels of musicianship. As a pro, it's pretty critical, because if you need to do a home studio recording or anything, it's actually pretty cheap and easy to be able to do that. You just need to know how to use a DAW and have some basic gear. But even at the beginner, just learning an instrument level of things, it's a good way to do high quality recordings of yourself for practice purposes, or just sending tracks back and forth with your buddies, whatever you might be doing there. There's tons of other stuff you can do in a DAW too. It's a really useful tool as a composer to have access to software instruments. You can actually test out your ideas, maybe before you take them to a band rehearsal or before you take them to a recording session. And you can do lots of other stuff that I can't even summarize here. You can slow stuff down, you can speed it up, you can change the key. So if any of those things sound like things you'd like to be able to do, look into getting some kind of DAW and learning how to use it. I think GarageBand is a lot easier to learn than Audacity, but if you're on Windows, then it's Audacity for you. Or you can try Fruity Loops. I've never tried that though, so it's not a recommendation. I'm just recommending that you get hip to DAWs and what they do, and how to do some basic stuff. So we already talked about DAWs, but I wanted to mention on its own the iPad GarageBand app, which is really its own thing. It's not at all like just an iPad version of GarageBand. It really feels a lot different. You can select a lot of different interesting instrument things to play with. And my favorite thing to do on here, I'm not going to show you everything because I don't actually know how to use this app very well, but this beat sequencer is so fun to play with. Let's just throw a little beat together. We can change the velocity. The note repeat thing is really cool because we can do this. It's totally changes everything. You can reduce the chance of occurrence, so we can make that little clicky rhythm a little less frequent. You've also got like on-screen keyboard stuff. On-screen guitar you can strum. It's really fun. So, and it's free. So if you have an iPad, definitely get the GarageBand app and do some dorky stuff. Okay, last up, I want to talk about Transcribe, which is an app that I've talked about before. I have a whole separate video that I'll link you to in the description. But Transcribe is amazing, and I've recommended it to many students over the years. It doesn't actually do anything special that a DAW couldn't do. So I could do anything I could do in Transcribe, I could also do in Logic, which is the DAW that I use the most often. But what I like about Transcribe is similar to what I said I liked about DrumBeats Plus at the beginning, which is that it only does the things that are relevant to transcribing. And that's actually a really huge advantage, because I know that when I open that app, I'll just have all the controls there for doing the one thing I want to do, which is transcribe. And I don't have to fuss with a bunch of other stuff. So Transcribe is like $40. It works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And you can slow stuff down without changing the pitch, or speed it up. You can slow or speed stuff and change the pitch. You can fine tune things. You can change the key of things. You can EQ stuff, so you can isolate the bass frequencies or remove them if you want to do a bassy play along. Or do other EQ stuff if you play another instrument. You can play with panning and do mono versus stereo and make karaoke tracks with a phase cancellation tool. You can make loops. You can export loops with multiple repeats. You can do section markers. So it's really useful for transcribing solos where you're working on a small piece at a time. You can make yourself markers and work in saved loop fragments. And it's just really slick. The dude who makes it has been updating it over the years, and it just keeps staying really good and getting a little bit better each time. And he doesn't do a pricey subscription model. I'm just a big fan of the whole Transcribe experience. So yeah, I recommend Transcribe to everybody. I know a lot of musicians who are into it, and a lot of students of mine too. And full disclosure, that's the only affiliate link you'll see in the description below, where I have links for all the apps. I've been a Transcribe affiliate for years because I just think it's amazing, and it doesn't cost you any extra money to click my affiliate link. I just get a percentage. Everything else below, I'm not affiliated at all. It's just stuff I like. Speaking of liking things, if you like this video, you can click the little thumb and tell YouTube that you liked it, and then the YouTube gods will shine their fortune upon you next time you want to see one of my videos recommended to you in a thing. And you can also subscribe so that you have a better chance of catching them. If you want to super support me in continuing to make videos here, you can become a patron at patreon.com/JoshFossgreen. Patrons get access to PDFs of songs we talk about in videos and lots of bonus videos. There will be a bonus video for my patrons for this one too. So you can check that out. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.